What's up guys? So Hawkeye episode 3 just dropped, Echoes, which is aptly named because we get the official MCU backstory of Maya Lopez aka Echo, and we find out some pretty interesting things like how she was brought up, her relationship with her father William Lopez, her mysterious uncle that's Kingpin, 100% Kingpin, confirmed by God, and who supposedly killed her father. I have my own theory about that and I'll get into it later in the video. Guys, this was top tier Marvel, okay? Probably on par with a lot of what we got in Loki and episode 4 of What If. It does so many things so well, and if you were like me, the first 2 episodes were a bit slow, but this is where the show actually really picks up, and in a big way. I mean, no offense, Mr. Fisk. Aw, shit. Legit, the only dislike I have is that this was the shortest episode yet, nearly 10 minutes shorter than before, coming in at 43 minutes. So we'll go over the story, the likes, and most importantly, the teases, because there were some pretty big ones that could have just been swept under the rug unless you were really looking. So don't worry guys, I got you. But before we get into all that, make sure you hit the subscribe button to support your boy, turn on your notifications, leave a thumbs up, follow my social medias. This one was one hell of a wild ride of an episode. So let's get into it. We start off this episode with a young Maya Lopez in school, showing her perspective as a deaf person, as well as how gifted she is even amongst her non-hearing impaired classmates. Just like in the comics, Maya Lopez was exceptional at pretty much everything she did. This really reminded me of Marvel Netflix. Like, I got a lot of young Matt Murdock flashback vibes, which is always great. We also got to see her father, William Lopez, and just the sweetest relationship between them. We also get another tease of dragons in the show, which will surprise you how often dragons are kind of hinted at, to be honest, and we'll touch on that in a bit, but it is very curious. I don't know if there's a strong connection with Echo in the comics to dragons, at least from what I've read. I haven't really seen it, but we'll get more into that. More so, we got our first look at the return of Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. Only the belly and hand, unfortunately, but that was enough to make everybody go crazy, okay? The king is back. Wilson Fisk is back, and that's all you need to know. And we all know it's you, Vincent. There is no hiding. You can show, your foot or the back of your ear. We're all gonna know. Like, he even posted this photo late as hell on Twitter, so it just all lines up. We get it, Vincent. You want to tell us so bad. You've been wanting to tell us but not being able to for months now, and we all love you for it. In the comics, Maya's father was a partner of Kingpin, and it looks like he was probably a leader of a faction of the tracksuits, which Kingpin is the head honcho for, and that responsibility got passed down to Maya by the time she was all grown up, and she witnessed her father get killed by the Ronin. So in the MCU, she isn't the original Ronin, but that doesn't mean she won't eventually take up the mantle at some point. I think she will, which could be really cool to see once the Echo show finally comes around. But that's her in with the suit. Her motivation is to avenge her father's death by killing who she believes to be the Ronin, which is Kate Bishop. Then we pick up where we last left off with Clint and Kate apprehended by the tracksuits. And y'all, I just want to say, I want you to know I could be so down bad right now, but I'm not going to, okay? Because it's the holidays. I need to try to not be such a heathen at this time of the year, even though I want to and it's in my blood, and I need to really earn some heaven points because it's not looking too good right now. I gotta be honest. I leave you with but a meme to express myself and hopefully to express all the other players alike out there. Anyways, Maya comes out to interrogate them about Ronin, and they share a little sign language, but ultimately Kazi translates, and Clint tries to clear Kate's name by saying that the Ronin was dead and that he saw Black Widow Natasha Romanoff kill him, which metaphorically is correct, but you notice how Clint's dancing around the question. He obviously doesn't want anyone to know about him being the Ronin, and I think in not the same way, but a similar way to Daredevil, Maya can pick up on when someone is lying. So even though he's telling the truth somewhat, the fact that there's some type of misleading going on or withholding of the full truth is something that she can pick up on. And honestly, I think that's how Yelena will eventually be worked in, if not by in the next episode, but at the end of it. Like, she shows Maya the pic of Hawkeye without the mask, like how Vanessa Contessa showed her at the end of the Black Widow movie, and they team up to kill him. Then we get our first real bits of action with Hawkeye getting loose from the ties, fighting the tracksuits and Maya. He then frees Kate and she starts to fight Kazi, which, damn, Kazi was kind of a bad mofo in the Matt Fraction run. Like, he was the last villain, like the main villain you could say, and in the first episode he seemed to be holding his own against Kate and actually getting the better of Kate in some instances, but he gets absolutely master fucked and cucked in this episode. He gets the dog shit beat out of him. Like, I legitimately felt like I was watching Home Alone in this sequence. Then they escape, and the infamous hot rod chase from the comics, specifically issue number 3 of the Matt Fraction run, ensues, where due to Maya breaking Clint's hearing aid, Kate has to step up a bit. This leaves Clint a little bit vulnerable, and she finally gets to use the trick arrows that she has been longing to use against the tracksuits who are chasing them down. And it's all straight from the comics, just mashed up, of course. We get the infamous putty arrows, acid arrows, and the mightier than the pen, the plunger arrow. Okay, I love seeing trick arrows. It really helps to spice up Clint's arsenal, and they're just fun as hell, and I love fun. So yeah, I was especially taken aback when instead of what I thought would be the boomerang arrow, it was actually a Pym-Tech arrow, which they used to their advantage at the end of the chase, which I absolutely loved. I think Hawkeye and the Pym side of the MCU are a great match. I love Paul Rudd and Jeremy Renner and both of their comic book counterparts almost as much as they love each other. And I also wanted to address that it's been kind of a complaint that people had that Stark Tech is way overused in the MCU, and that we should see more Hammer Tech or Rand, AIM, or Roxxon Tech to broaden the universe, which I don't entirely disagree with, but I do because Stark Tech is, in my opinion, like the Apple of the MCU. Like, it's A1 technology, the best there is. Like, does nobody remember that court scene with the Hammer Tech? I think it's obvious why people would go for Stark Tech and why so many people use it and, you know, actually risk their lives to get it. And so why would people want to use anything else? That's my whole thing. And I put Pym-Tech on that same level, maybe the Windows to the Mac. Like, don't ever sleep on how much of a genius Hank Pym is. So I really enjoyed that, and how just playful and fantastical they got by adding that to the show. And they're able to escape via the useless plunger arrow. Back at Kate's aunt's place, Nathaniel calls Clint, but since he's still without a hearing aid, Kate has to translate for him. And it's basically, you know, a bored little boy that's missing his father during the holidays and is sad that his father isn't with him and probably won't be with him on one of the most important days of the year. And that's what that little boy is accepting. This adds more fuel and pressure for Clint to hurry up and get things settled, also adding to the stress and tension of him very potentially not being able to make it on Christmas. And this allows for Kate as well to understand the severity of things even more by bearing the weight of Clint's sacrifice just to help her. And her not having a father, I'd imagine, would cause her to empathize even more with Clint trying to make it home to his family, but she still is very naive and is not really seeing the downside yet of the superhero life. And Clint tries to impart the cost, the true cost of that kind of lifestyle, but Kate can't really see past the good just yet, but she probably will learn soon. And I love how Clint is trying to shirk the hero lens that Kate sees him through so strongly. Clint has a very checkered past and won't let himself forget, and I like how Kate is really helping him to see how much of an impact of good he's been despite all that bad, which I love. And the camera work here is also really great. Plus they name drop Pizza Dog, so that was awesome. And we got that official Hawkeye suit tease, which we've been seeing, you know, in the promos all the live long day, so I can't wait to see that, probably in the last episode of the season. And the rest of the episode we get more mention of a guy on the top, and we all know it's Kingpin. That's where this is all leading up to. I really need to rewatch season 3 of Daredevil because I totally forgot what happened to Fisk at the end of the season. Clint also mentions that the tracksuits could be after more than just the Ronin suit, after all, with items from the Avengers compound also being auctioned, and we got a little tease of that in the first episode. So I'm curious exactly what else they'd be after, or if they were just focused on getting Avengers tech or anything from the compound, just like Vulture was in Homecoming, just to kind of resell it, because ain't no way Fisk is fitting in an Iron Man suit. That's just the fucking reality of it. Aw, shit. Then we get that massive cliffhanger with Jack drawing the blade on Clint in the penthouse, and I love this because I was beginning to miss Tony Dalton, so I'm glad we got to see him. By definition, just a great cliffhanger, leaving us wanting more. And also in the comics, Jack was the mentor of Hawkeye in his Carney days, which you can read in Avengers 19 from 1965. Now, of course, this isn't exactly like the comics, so since Kate mentioned Jack before and Clint didn't really pick up on it, I'm not sure if they have that same history from the comics, but maybe they do have some history. Who knows? And if they do, that just adds to how good that cliffhanger was. Like, I really can't wait to see their interaction. That's pretty much it for the episode. Now for the predictions, and I have a handful of them. First, I believe Hawkeye mentioning Nat will lead to Yelena coming in. Like, it's obvious she's coming, but I think because of how he danced around the Ronin questions with Maya, she will eventually link up with Yelena, and Yelena will show her the picture of Clint in the Ronin suit without the mask, and in the anger of the lies they were told, they team up to hunt Clint. Possibly in the next episode, but if not, it'll be teased at the end end of episode 4. And this leads to my next prediction, which is very big, and it's Clint didn't kill Maya's father. There's too much vagueness going on in this show, and the people who work on this show are absolutely brilliant, beautiful people, and are doing an excellent job, by the way. But they're no match for a slick ass, cold ass player hater like myself, okay? And I believe the killing of Maya's father was orchestrated by Kingpin, just like in the comics, and he hired none other than Jack Duquesne, swordsman, to do the job, okay? Look, I'm not sure if Maya was snapped, but they put 2007 as the year when she's a little girl, and then they leave the current year out when she's all grown up. So I believe that's an intentional misdirect to make us think it's during the snap time and that it's Clint. But I truly believe it's not just because Jack is the swordsman that he would have such an infatuation with that Ronin sword. I believe he used it under hire for the Kingpin, or maybe even unbeknownst to the Kingpin, just to take out more members of the criminal underworld so that he could potentially rake in more dough. I think that's also why we never see Clint's face in the sequence of Ronin taking down the tracksuits and killing William Lopez. And also, think about it, Hawkeye takes place 1 year after the events of Endgame, so that's enough time for Jack to swipe the suit and sword. Also, I think because Clint really leaned into him not being a role model in the dinner scene, Jack will use Bishop's security and get video footage of that night of when Ronin killed Maya's father and somehow convince Kate, maybe even convince the public, who knows, that he did that and that Ronin was Clint, and somehow convince Kate, who will reluctantly believe Jack, and maybe even frame Ronin for the death of Armand, who I'm pretty sure he was responsible for that death in conjunction with Eleanor Bishop. I really think she's a part of the bigger scheme of things, and Clint and her will have a falling out and eventually team back up in the final episode. Of course, they will probably lean into that heavy, since they lean so heavy into the third issue of the Matt Fraction run in this episode. And in the fourth issue, it starts off by Kate asking Clint if he's ever killed someone, and the storyline here is Clint having to recover a video of him killing someone from an auction. So maybe that might be Jack's play. I'm just spitballing here, people, okay? Some of this shit could just be off, totally wrong. I could just be pulling the shit straight out of my ass.
Excuse me while I pull something on my ass, zombie.
I'm trying my best, so just think about it. Other predictions would be the uncle 100% confirmed by God is Wilson Fisk. You guys know this, I know this, the world knows it. Avengers tech will be implemented in a big way in the finale. Maybe Clint uses some to get home for Christmas, or Kate gets her credit card restored so she can pay Hawkeye back to get home on time. That's what I'm thinking. That's all I really have for predictions. But lastly, I just wanted to point out that there was a dragon that Maya drew in her little learning book as a child, and the dragon question she asked her dad, along with the whole Imagine Dragons thing, which was great, okay? Imagine Dragons can shit blood, for all I care, they suck ass. But this is very curious. Is a fucking dragon gonna pop up at the end of the show? I doubt it, but it's all for something, I'd imagine, okay? They wouldn't be continuously mentioning it if it was all for naught. And as well, Jack's sword, or the Ronin sword, or whichever sword Jack mains with as swordsman, could potentially, in the MCU, be connected to the Mandarin, or Wenwu, because in Avengers 20, the Mandarin actually gives swordsman a crazy ass sword of Makulan design. So it's all wild like the 10 rings, and the Makulans, for those of you who don't know, in the comics are responsible for the 10 rings and are a dragon-like species. I'll get more into that. Things are changing in the MCU, so I don't know if that'll hold up, but maybe Clint just had no idea how to use it in that way. But just imagine how crazy shit will get if Jack has a 10 rings type of sword in the finale. That would go off. And again, maybe at the end of the series, Echo gets the suit and Ronin gear to avenge her father in some way or honor him, and that might bring her to the Shang-Chi side of the universe, and you know, then maybe she will eventually see a dragon. So hopefully that happens, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Xi Lang popped up at one of these big fancy evil auctions that will be going on. I think that would be really dope, tie the universe together. I'm just spitballing here, guys. This episode was Marvel at its best. We got great setups, teases, motivations, lots of well done action. I really love how they incorporated hand-to-hand combat with the bow shooting, lots of great translations from the book. The humor and the emotions were balanced so well. The only other place I've seen it done on this level in the MCU is the Guardians, okay? Instead of more tongue-in-cheek humor like with the Guardians, Hawkeye is much more witty humor, which is perfect translation from the comics. The opening was powerful as hell, and the Nat calling scene was everything. And we're left with such a great cliffhanger that just has us wanting more. Hawkeye is really shaping out to be the best Disney Plus show of the year, and honestly one of Marvel Studios' better projects. But let me know what you guys thought of the episode and where you think things are going so far with the show. Any predictions of your own, I'd love to hear. That's it. If you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you want, subscribe. I always appreciate it. Hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.